Hello, everybody. My name is Lance T. Harris. I'm taking a class with Liberty University, and one of the projects that we have is an interpersonal communication project. It's through class HSCO 508. Now, what we're going to do on this interpersonal communication project is I'm going to give you some insight into me, and then hopefully by the end of it, you'll know me better if you care to. And then you'll also have a better understanding of interpersonal communication so that maybe you can be a better you. Okay? So we have a presentation, and actually it's a slideshow presentation. You won't be able to see it, but my teacher will. So I'm going to go ahead and say slide for the next slide, and we'll continue. Next slide. So the objectives for this, what we're going to do here is we're going to define interpersonal communication because you need to know what it is. I'm going to explain my overarching goal in my life. I'm also going to explain my background and my personal behavioral blend. I'm going to disclose to you, and we're going to discuss a little bit some of my significant communicational barriers, as well as how to get over them, and or avenues that I could go ahead and reduce, and strategies to eliminate some of those barriers. And I'm also going to explain, give you a pretty much a running start of a plan and how I'm going to make my overarching goal a reality. Okay, next slide. So what is interpersonal communication? All right, so it's the pretty much like Stuart said, we had to read this book, and what this gentleman said, what this author said, was that the type of communication that happens pretty much between one person and another person, right? Interpersonal is how I make sure that I can relate to you and how you can relate to me. And it's not just talking like a lot of people think about. It's communicating. It's getting understanding. It's conveying your information and also receiving the information from that other person. Okay. They're using some metaphors in here that I love. They have this thing called inhaling and exhaling. Okay. When you inhale, right? It's just like you're breathing. When you inhale, it's part of the process, so you could go ahead and take in and receive what the other person is saying. Only thing you're doing is inhaling. I hear you. I'm feeling you. I'm not thinking about nothing else. I'm all into you. Okay? And then we exhale. Now it's my turn to speak. Now let me tell you what's coming from the perspective of Lance. Okay? And this goes back and forth, and when you inhale and exhale, they have it as a metaphor so that it's just like breathing. Because you know what? If we're communicating, I have to constantly listen to you, right? Effectively. And then I want to be able to convey whatever I have. Because if we're not doing that, then we're just not really communicating. We're just talking. And we don't have time to really just talk in life. Everybody's has too much valuable things that they could do. The time is too valuable. Okay? So I like that as far as interpersonal communication. So when we're talking, give and take. Next slide. So we have the overarching goal. Now I have a couple goals in here, and I did view on what some of the other people had, but I have to break my overarching goal to you my way. All right. The first thing is I want to become a solid Christian counselor. Solid. Okay. And what I realized that I have to do, I have to improve on my listening skills. I have to. I used to be in the military, and I tell you, it's a different environment from being in the military than being out here in the civilian world. Okay, so I have to listen more. I have to be able to seamlessly utilize the different techniques that we have, and in order to get people to go ahead and speak about other areas. Okay, if I'm going to be a counselor, a person has to be comfortable enough to go ahead and even want to talk. If they're not talking, you're not really counseling. You're just kind of there. And there's no time in my life to be just there. One thing that I know that I have to improve on is that I have to give complete, full attention to that person. A counselor can't just be talking. You can't. You can't counsel that way. You have to be able to be quiet, be still, just like the Lord. He passes by, it's just a little whisper. Sometimes just be quiet. And then when you speak, it'll be something. People will be listening to you. Okay? Next slide. So my background. The positives, I am who I am, right? I'm raised in an extroverted type family. I mean, everybody talking. Everybody was having a good time. From the time I was way little to how I am now. We all get together, have a good time. I've always been drawn to speaking. I was in extemporaneous speaking in high school, won some awards. So just have a good time. In the military, same way. I'm just an outgoing person, right? Extremely confident. I cannot be not confident. I just am who I am, okay? Now, with the good, you got the bad. And I don't call it bad, but the not so positive, okay? Sometimes I can talk too much. And if you're talking too much, they're not listening to you. People are going to tune out to you, okay? So you have to be able to talk just enough to get it going. My being in the military it led me to just go ahead and sometimes just look for the information that I need and cut the rest of it out, okay? And just give me what you got, bluff, bottom line up front. And then I realized that I'm not hearing everything it is, so I can't make a good assessment on the situation, okay? And then sometimes I can be blunt. It is what it is type experience, and I don't really like to be like that, but sometimes I am, and it's something that I have to work on, because you don't need to be so curt or so blunt that you make someone else feel uncomfortable, okay? People have feelings, okay? And another thing about me, I never really like too much of the details. You give me a task, let me do the task. I'm not worried about, I don't want no A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. I just don't. I want to get the job done, and I get the job done. Next slide. So, what is a behavioral blend? There was a uniquely you, a personality profile, and what they did, they came together and they asked you some questions, and we took this at the beginning of the class. And you have your DISC, D, the I, the S, the C. The D is like for your active, task-oriented things in your life, kind of like dominating, directing, demanding, determined, those kind of things. You have I, which are active and people-oriented, like inspiring, influencing, impressing, if you will, interacting, interested in people. You have the S, which is for passive or people-oriented also, and it's like steady and stable, shy, secure, security, servant, submissive, if you will. And then finally you have the C, which is passive, task-oriented, which is like the cautious people. They're careful, they're compliant, very contemplative, if you will. Okay? Next slide. So where do I fall in at? Bam! I'm an I all day, right? It's just an I. I'm no D, no S, no C. They're all low. So an I is inspiring, influencing, extremely outgoing, the whole gamut. And yeah, there's always a downside. Could be prideful, maybe talk too much, interrupting other people when they talk, and I try not to do that. But those are some of the things that could be a part of the downfall. How do I control it? Am I controlling my behavioral blend? Well, I'm a DIS, okay? And what that means that I tend to be a little bit more calculating and careful. I try to be more organized. I try to be more careful in what I promise. I have to think before I act, and I have to be humble and slow to speak. These are the things that are going to combat any of the negative things that I have, okay? Next slide. Some of my barriers. Listen with empathy. Listening without empathy is a communication barrier, and sometimes that happens because I might not hear the full understanding of what that person is trying to do. Multitasking, personal pride, noise pollution, all these things getting in your head, and you're not really focusing on what's really important, and also ineffective time management. Okay. Now, how do I go ahead and combat the strategies for this? Acknowledgement. Listening without empathy, I'm going to acknowledge the person I'm talking to. I'm going to. When I have to multitask, or when I'm starting to multitask, then how am I going to do that? I'm going to have mindful listening. I'm going to listen intently to one thing, and that's that person who's going to be speaking. Okay? You have the personal pride. Admit ignorance. It's all right if I don't know. It is. It's all right if I don't know. I just have to admit that. Noise pollution, the talker listener card that Peterson had, that's pretty good. It kind of gives you a guide as to what to do when somebody's talking, who owns it and the other person doesn't own it, and then how they flip-flop. And this could keep on going, and it really does help. And then, of course, ineffective time management. Next, let's think about what we have to do. No matter what, we're going to get to where we need to get to. We're going to get there. All right? Next slide. So my action plan. Listen, listen, listen. That's the number one thing. Listen. That's the number one thing. Okay? I'm also going to apply communication strategies that I've learned. Okay? And I'm going to continue to develop them in a way that I can continuously utilize them, right? To talk and to communicate with other people. And I'm always going to be thinking win-win for both parties. I win, you win. It's a us thing. Okay? And then, of course, again, I want to talk about that next thing because we have to get from here to there. We have to. We cannot stop. Okay? Next slide. So in summary, and I only had a little bit of time and I went over a little bit, but you learned about interpersonal communications. You learned about my overarching goal and how I want to be a better listener. I explained my background to you, my personal behavioral blend, and how I'm an extrovert and what I have to do and my downside to that, and also the resources and the strategies that I'm going to use to overcome those, right? And then I gave you my overarching goal and how I'm going to make that a reality. And there's a quote I want to give you, okay? It's by Doug Larson. I have to read it to you. Wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you'd prefer to talk. Listen to it. Wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you would prefer to talk. I think that's pretty good. I think it's strong. But I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. But now I must end. So I bid you a farewell and have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye.